That's Amato for Liberty. All right, switching gears now. Join me this time from Los Angeles, California via Skype is someone who is considered quite a controversial figure, oftentimes even by folks within his own Jewish religion. He is Orthodox Rabbi Moshe Parry. He joins us from L.A. Rabbi Parry, welcome to the show.
Hi, Rick. How are you doing? It's Moshe, by the way.
Moshe. Thank you for the correction. I want to, before we get into the Israeli-Palestinian debacle, I want to ask you your reaction to a recent poll. A recent Gallup poll asked different religious groups what their opinion was of President Obama. Now, of course, President Obama has declining poll numbers across all walks of life. One recent poll, Quinnipiac poll, recently came out and showed that Americans feel that he's the worst performing president since World War II. However, this poll out by Gallup last week showed that he had a 72% approval rating among Muslims. What's your reaction to that? Why do you think that's the case?
Well, he must be doing something they like.
For example?
Siding with them in the conflict with Israel, I would venture.
So you think that they see action from this president that is consistent with what they like. America, of course, is an ally of Israel. Would you say this president has lived up to the spirit of that history?
No, absolutely not. Going back to the first time he gave a foreign policy talk on a foreign soil was in Cairo. He chose as his first speech worldwide, and he didn't even invite the President Mubarak to the event. So it was from the start, he was sending messages to the most radical elements of the Muslim world right from the beginning.
How dangerous do you believe that is for the security of Israel and the Middle East, and even America, going forward? Let me elaborate. What sort of precedent may he be setting that could lead to future security breaches going forward?
Well, for Israel, we rely on God. That's the first and foremost. And when we're doing the right thing, then it doesn't matter who's the American president. God will have that president treat us with the respect and what our needs are. And we're not doing the right thing, then we can get even a good friend of Israel, who was George W. Bush, to make us do things like that were pure suicide, like the unilateral disengagement from Gaza in 2005. So it goes with the territory. It depends on our relationship with each other and our relationship with God. As far as America is concerned, it is a radical departure from most presidents in recent history, for sure, starting with John F. Kennedy, as to how they appreciated or how they wanted to have relationships with the state of Israel and the Jewish people.
President Obama has said that the tragedy going on, the violence going on in the Middle East right now between the Palestinians and the Israelis is an example. It is a living example of why a peace deal needs to be reached. A peace deal will lead to security with Israel. I'm going to assume that you disagree that a peace deal would lead to security with Israel, as I think a lot of Americans would disagree. What is a true path to security for Israel?
True path to security for Israel is to abandon Oslo and the Sinai Accords and everything that we've made with the Arab Muslim world, and to decide that we have one country and the Arabs and Muslims have 22 different countries, and we need to have our state, and all of the people who want to see us destroyed, who don't want peace with us, have to be moved out to one of those two places.
Rabbi, what do you believe the ultimate outcome will be with the violence going on right now in Gaza? I mean, it seems like it was tragic enough when the 3 Israeli teenagers were kidnapped and murdered, and then we saw Arabs in the streets celebrating as if they just won a soccer match, and then the violence has just ratcheted up since then. Where does this all end in your estimation?
This all ends with there will not be peace. as sad as it is to say, under the current circumstances, under the current policies, peace is not possible. They do not want peace. They cannot live even amongst themselves, as we saw from Egypt and Syria and all throughout the Middle East, now in Iraq. We see they can't live with themselves. Going back in history, the Lebanon conflagration between Hezbollah and the Amal and all the Christian groups and the Muslim groups, Sunnis and Shiites, they fight with themselves. How are we supposed to get along with them when they can't even get along with themselves?
So how does that end then?
It ends with Israel finally waking up to the truth that there can't be peace with them, and taking off the gloves and making it that there's only one solution, and that's a one-state solution. Israel has its entire biblical boundaries, and the Muslims and the Arabs in the region have their states, and that's the divide. We have to be completely separated, completely without any kind of chance for them to mass up on our borders and attack us, and we'll just have to have a separation, a complete separation and transfer of a population exchange, and complete what happened in the 40s and the 50s when Jews in the Arab and North African and Middle East countries and Arab lands came to Israel en masse, 800,000 of them. Now it's time they were expelled, and now it's time to complete that transfer and give the Israeli or the Jewish land, Israel's Arabs, back into the Arab lands where they once came from.
Rabbi Parry, we thank you for joining us and giving us your perspective on this violent matter. As we go to a break, listen, we all make mistakes. No one, of course, is perfect. We all make mistakes in our personal lives and at work. But how did MSNBC get this one so wrong? Stay with me. You're watching The Rick Amato Show on One American News.
U.S. Staff Sergeant Michael Boyd is at the U.S. Embassy in Ukraine and says that he saw a missile in the air hit the plane. He is on the phone with us. And please tell us what you saw there on the ground in Ukraine.
Well, I was looking out the window and